Hello, welcome to Link Academy. Today we want to reproduce that line problem you are seeing at the right corner of the screen. The dimension, listen, here's the concept. For any line problem, please always go for the what? Dimension. That's the first thing to do. The dimension there is going to be what? 90, right? It simply means all the sides are 90. That's the concept. So now let's establish that. As you can see, with the help of my literal and my T-square and my pencil, I will draw horizontal line this way, right? So I can just pick a point. Let me just pick this point here, right? As my reference point, my second point. So take it from this point, you draw a vertical line upward. You have this. Next up, the next task to do is to what? The next task to do is to establish what? That's 90. So from this point to this point is 90. Automatically what? Taking it. Yes, taking it. That's the next thing to do. Taking it. So I haven't done this. The next thing to do now is to what? Take your compass, measure the distance from this point to this point. Please make sure is that correct. I have this, right? So take it at this point, strike an arc up here, right? So I can just take it automatically with my literal. I have this, right? So with the help of my T square and set square this way, I'll draw. I will draw a what? A vertical line upward, right? Upward this way, right? I don't know why it's bending. Vertical line upward. Yeah. So I will automatically close this part up at this point to this point. Yeah. Similarly, I taking this part. I have this square. It simply means all the sides here are of 90. Yes, are of 90. What do you observe? As you can see where my arrow is indicating. But before that, I can see that figure is divided into what? Into some sections. Into 3 sections, right? So now let's do that. Listen, from here to this point here is 90, right? So I take it this way. As you can see, this is 90, right? This is my 90. So next thing I'll do it. This part, as you can see at the right corner of the screen, is divided into 3 equal parts. It simply means each of them is what? Of 1 centimeter, right? So now let's do that. I have this 1 centimeter here. I have 1 here, and I have 1 here, right? So similarly, counting backward, I have 1 here, I have 1 here, and I have 1 here. So I have this. Now here's the concept here. I'll take this part and this from here to here, which is 90, right? So I take it this 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, that is 6, and lastly 9. So at this point, you take this way, horizontal line, right? Then come to this point here, horizontal line this way. I have this. So similarly, with the help of my T square, they are all thickened. Please let's thicken it. They are all thickened. Let's thicken it. Yes. Let's thicken this part. I have this. So now, with the help of what I have just did up here, I will just take it this way. I will thicken this part. Right? I come down here. I thicken this part to avoid time wastage. Next up, at this part, take it down, and at this part, take it down this way. I have this. Next up, I take this down, and I take this down. So I have what you are seeing on the right corner of the screen. Same thing is applied to the back hand side here, right? So I do that simultaneously. Take this point, I take this point here. As you can see, I take this point here down this way, I take this point here down. Next up, next point, I take this down and I take this down. Right? Next up, I will need to take this down too. Take this down and take this down. I have this, right? Next up, as you can see at the right corner of the screen, there is what you need to note, right? I will divide this here into 3 equal parts, right? I'll divide that into 3 equal parts. I'll make sure this line here and this line are touching each other. Yes, this line and this line here are touching each other this way. So after I've done this, right, as you can see, there's a line connecting through this point. We call it diagonal line. So what is represented with what? Dash line this way. Draw it this way. Right, next up. At this point, take it this way, dash line, dash lines, dash lines. I have this, right? So next up, I will divide this part into 3, right? So I do that with my meter rule. From this point to 3, right? So this is 1 and this is 2. So I take this my t-square. I take my t-square this way. I take in this part. Simultaneously, I take in this part. Next up, I move to the next point here. I take in this part, and I take in this part. So I have what you are seeing at the right corner of the screen. Next up, the next thing to do here is what? Is at this point here, there's also what? A horizontal line established. So now let's do that. With the help of my meter rule, I'll measure what? At this point, from here to here, is 3, right? So I think it's 1, and this is 2. Automatically come to this point here, it's 3, right? 1, and this is what? 2. So I take my t-square this way, connect it this way, right? Connect this point this way. Similarly, I do that upward here this way. I do that up there this way. So we have successfully reproduced what you are seeing at the right corner of the screen to be this. Now the next thing to do was what? Dimension. Yes, let's dimension it. So at this point, I take my t-square up this way, tangential to my square. Just taking apart like this. Next up, take it upward this way, taking apart. Right? So just take my t-square, draw a horizontal line, then put an arrow to indicate from this point here to this point is what? It's going to be what? 90. Yes, 90. Yes, 90. Next up, as you can see at the right corner of the screen, this dimensioning, I'm not just doing it, I'm doing it according to what I'm having at the right corner of the screen. So I take this upward this way, I draw a line this way, such that I draw an arrow here, an arrow here, an arrow here, an arrow here, an arrow, and an arrow. So as you can see, this is illustrated. As you can see at the right corner of the screen, I have this. So if you have found this video helpful, kindly click on the subscription button and like. Thank you. You're welcome to Wise Link Academy. Thanks for watching.